This is Banjo, and today we're taking a look at Zeus and how to set it up in the editor for use in your missions. I'll be going over the basic functions of Zeus and going into the more in-depth details of it in later videos. But for now, let's just figure out how to get it set up. The unit with control over the Zeus interface is known as a curator, and there's two different ways to set this up. One with a playable unit and the other with a game logic. In this case, I set up a playable unit with the name of P1. I'll be using this name field in the Game Master Module's owner field once I place it down. So we'll go into module mode by pressing F7, category Zeus, module Game Master. We can see the first value is owner. We would enter the name of our unit there, which would set up P1 as the curator of that Game Master module. Next we'll give you an example of using a game logic. Going into side, game logic, class, virtual entities, we can see Zeus. Using this method, you can use the Zeus interface without a playable object. When setting it up like this, the forced interface option becomes important, as when we're using a playable unit, we want the option of being able to switch back and forth between using the interface and playing our unit, but as a virtual game logic does not have a playable unit, we have to use forced interface enabled. But with a playable unit, we use forced interface disabled. The last entry, being default add-ons, we leave at all official add-ons, which allows us to place anything in ARMA 3. With it at none, we can't place anything. For the sake of this tutorial, we'll be using all official add-ons, as this will enable us to use anything in Zeus. But by using the Manage Add-ons module, they can be added or subtracted during the mission by entering the add-on class and selecting the mode accordingly. We'll go over this in a later video. With our Game Master module set up properly, with our owner filled out to our player, we now have control over the Zeus interface, but we don't have much functionality over it. So next we'll be placing a Manage Resources module, and this will set our current resources from 0 to 100%. We can find it in category Zeus, module, Manage Resources. We can see value of 0 and preform once every second, once every 10 seconds, and once every minute. For value, I set this up as a scalar by setting a value of 1, which in the way I use it works as 100% resources, and by setting up that way, the values I set up in cost just work as a percentage. And for perform, this is how often it's performed. I leave this at 1, so at the start of the mission, it gives me full resources. Placing a second module, I'll set this one for every minute, so at the start of the mission I get full resources, and every minute thereafter I get full resources. Both are synchronized to the Game Master module. With our Manage Resources modules out of the way, we can now focus on setting the object and unit costs. We do this by placing down a Set General Object Cost module, which we can find in category Zeus, module, Set General Object Costs. Here we can see all the classes, infantry, mortars, etc., and all the values set up for them. Since I used a scalar, every value that I enter is the percentage of 100%. In this case, it's 0.005%. I find this way easier than setting up actual points costs and dealing with a set points value, but to each their own. Next, we need a Set Editing Cost module, which we can find in Modules, category Zeus, module Set Editing Cost. This is the cost of using the editor. For example, grouping, synchronization, destroying, and editing cost nothing. To use those functions, it won't cost you any points. To delete a unit, it will give you back a point, and to place a unit, it will take a point. You can set these all up accordingly and how you see fit. Once you have both modules set up as desired, synchronize both of them to the Game Master module. The final module we'll look at in this example, which is optional, is the Set Camera Position module. This module is used when you switch into the Zeus interface. It will transition to where it's facing. As we'd see, azimuth of 220 degrees, pitch of -20, with a commit time of 0.5, so it'll take half a second to transition to this camera, transition to a bearing of 220 at a pitch of -20 degrees. And by taking a look in game, we press our Zeus interaction key found in Controls Common at the very bottom of the list. and we can see the Zeus editor. We can see our points at the very top, and by selecting a unit we can see the points cost that I have assigned to them, and after 1 minute the bar would refresh and refill itself every minute of the game. And with that, you now know how to set up basic Zeus functionality, and I'll go over more complex functions in a later video.